Hey guys, we are again and still at the Deutsche Panzermuseum in Munster, and this time I'm asking military history visualized.
Hey guys.
Yeah, what is, in your opinion, the most ill-represented fact or feature of tanks in video games?
For me, I think which comes across the most misconception is visibility. I should add here, I don't think it's intentional because gameplay is first. So when you sit the first time in a tank, I had the great chance to sit in a bow gunner's position of a T-34, you just can't see anything. And in computer games, it's quite the opposite. Usually you have the third person view for gameplay reasons and you see everything with a tank. So this is probably complete opposite. Even in a car you see way more, or even in a car you see less than you see in a third person perspective. So in first person in a car you see a lot, but in a tank it's quite the opposite. You see almost nothing. So this is for me the most from the experience you don't think. When I was a gamer, I never thought about, well, as a tank I won't see anything. There were some tactical games like they featured this, like not Company of Heroes, Close Combat, mm-hmm. where you need your infantry to scout for you to find the enemy infantry, because else your tanks get killed. But in other games, like, it's usually perfect view conditions if you have a tank.
I think we actually played together Steel Division.
Yeah.
And there you were quite angry about this, that the view was actually that bad. So
who was angry? Huh?
Well, a bit. You noted that the tanks basically had no chance to view anything by themselves.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, yeah, with Steel Division there were some other issues. It was mostly micromanagement, like your friendly AI, your units behaved quite stupidly, whereas the computer AI was perfectly. Yeah, the spotting, I actually like the spotting mechanic in Ruse, which was the pre-disaster of Steel Division, where you had, like, when there were anti-tank guns in the woods and you don't have a unit that actually does recon, they surprise shoot at you and do double or 3 times the damage. I found this very good. But Ruse was a hard counter game, so you had various units that were very strong against other units, or some units were very weak against other units. I really like that game because I haven't played that game before. I think they had hard counter mechanics. So basically the view aspect of tanks is very important. Yeah.
Now, for example, you have a game like Company of Heroes 2, where the view is actually somewhat limited through buildings and bushes and such. In other games, you have it that you just have a flat circle around. Of course, a flat circle is not realistic, but would you say that probably tanks should have far less an area of view, even when it is blocked, than infantry?
I mean, Company of Heroes is probably a very problematic situation, because the issue is, if you look at fighting distances, there were a few hundred meters with tanks. So in Company of Heroes, you have basically your infantry, and I think if you translate it, I think the whole battlefield usually is not much larger than a few hundred meters. You have actually the same problem, I think, in Man of War, because I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think they have the correct penetration values and the correct, mainly for firepower and everything. But the problem is, since the battlefield is so much smaller, you don't have the benefit of the armor protection for most parts, because you're always already so close that the armor often doesn't deflect the shell, which in real life would be a few hundred meters more, and then the shell would have been actually deflected. So the few issue is, I mean, the thing is, with a tank, you hear it rather early, because, well, they're quite loud, so you have a general perception. I think in Company of Heroes, there are actually some commandos or some units that have sound spotting. Yeah. It's some special ability, and you always have this field of view. Like, I think you have just field of view that's completely blocked or not at all. For instance, in Steel Division, you have orchards which block your view like 50 meters or something, or it's semi-transparent, and there's something that completely block, like words, and then you have something that reduces your overall vision. So it's a more smooth and rounder design, which is more realistic. But at the same time, it can get more frustrating if you don't know the mechanics. And this is the whole gameplay aspect.
Yeah.
For me, it's like historical accuracy in games or realistic aspect. Most important aspect is gameplay. Because if you make it fully realistic, you get one spawn, and then you're done for. And the many other aspects, you want to have fun when you play a game. And of course, for instance, for me, Red Orchestra 2 is for me the best so far first-person shooter multiplayer, because it's, well, you have bolt action rifles. I like bolt action rifles, slow reloading and everything, and you have no zoom usually when you don't play a sniper. But I lately played Postmortem, which is more realistic, I think. Postscriptum, yeah. Postscriptum. Postmortem is the song by Slayer. Yeah, I know. I got it wrong. And there I realized you don't get any feedback when you kill somebody during the battle. After the battle, you get the information. And I realized that's too much for my current learning curve. If I was still younger, then I would be probably different. But right now, it's more like, okay, I mean, it's still a fun game, don't get me wrong, and I probably play it on Twitch again. But for me, that was like, I have no idea what I did or did not, and that's a bit too much. So I probably would prefer Postscriptum with indication, or maybe a replay system, something that would, I'm not, maybe it's in there, like that afterwards you get a short video, maybe third person, that you can review every time you were shot and you shot someone. Because then you could actually learn later on. Yeah,
during the game it would be problematic because it would
during game it would
work
against everything, but to learn it, because sometimes you just don't have a clue what happens. I mean, this was originally the same in Red Orchestra. I just go then, I just died and I died again, and then I slowly learned, but in Postscriptum I never reached that point.
Now, for visibility, that's for the strategical or tactical games. On the other hand, you have the realistic for Postscriptum, but on the other hand, you have games like Battlefield, new one, 5 just came out, and there you can basically see across most of the battlefield for 2-3 kilometers. I don't think in an actual battlefield environment that would be realistic either, right?
Well, it really depends. If you're on the Russian steppe, you sometimes can't see that much. But the thing is, can you stick out the head long enough to see that? So I mean, the thing is, generally with Battlefield, especially Battlefield 5, there was quite some controversy about historical accuracy and some other things. And my comment there is basically that, I mean, Battlefield was never particularly historically accurate, I think. And I think to address that the problem is historical accuracy is a bit misleading. I think what people have the most problem is that politics got shoved into the game, in a game that's not particularly well served for discussing politics or difficult topics, because it's the same, like, imagine you're watching Transformers and there's a very deep and important political message in there. It doesn't add up with all the explosions. It's just, Battlefield for me is, I like Battlefield 1, although it's not, it's different than Red Orchestra. So it's more like a Transformers shooter. It's more action. I mean, Battlefield 1 plays in World War 1, for those who don't know, and you have basically almost no bolt action rifles. Nearly everything is semi-automatic or even automatic, and this is completely different. And not many people complained, I think, about Battlefield 1, about the historical inaccuracy. Everyone was happy that First World War was covered, and now with Battlefield 5, the argument was never historical accuracy. I think it was worded wrongly by some people, or maybe portrayed the other way around, like, it's not historical accuracy. It's more like, okay, maybe don't bring politics into this when we don't really want to discuss politics in a mainstream game, which is for the huge consumer market. If you have, like, I think other games like Verdun, for instance, I think there is such a discussion or a certain aspect would be perceived differently, but also I think they would make it way more nuanced. Because I heard quite many people complain about not Company of Heroes, Battlefield 5.
No wonder that. Yeah. Okay. Shit.
You can cut that out in there.
Yeah.
Can you look at what the time is? No, it should be running there. It should be running. It should be standing at the top somewhere.
Oh, yeah, when I moved it, yeah. So you're 11 minutes, 12 seconds.
Okay, ja, so.
Ending?
Ja, ich glaube, wir haben es.
Ja, wir haben ein bisschen verspätet.
Ja, genau. Also eine Frage, mach noch eine Frage.
Okay. Was könnte man noch machen?
Irgendwas noch Panzer-related würde ich jetzt noch mal machen, wenn wir da sind.
As we are in the Tank Museum.
Hm?
As we are in the Tank Museum.
Panzer, ja. Okay.
Good. As we are in a tank museum, obviously, and we're standing in front of an artillery piece, would you say there's any game that accurately depicts the combined arms warfare with artillery, panzer grenadiers, and tanks, of course?
Yeah, I think I actually made the case back then when Steel Division came out. So I think, from my perspective, I mean it has air support in there. You have artillery, you have infantry, you have anti-tank guns, you have anti-aircraft guns, you have tanks.
Even aircraft.
Yeah, aircraft and the artillery is also done, and the suppression mechanic, so that not everything is one-shot kill, even sometimes it is, yeah. So it really depends on the situation that you also drive some units back that are more heavily armored, but if you concentrate fire, that they turn back. So I think Steel Division does the best job. Of course, I don't know the war games. The predecessors, for those who don't know, of Steel Division are the war game series. And from what I heard, mainly for those people who play war game, Steel Division is too casual. But for casual players, Steel Division is too hardcore. And that's a problem I ran into, because in Steel Division I was most of the time completely overwhelmed. So Steel Division, I think, close combat on a very tactical small level, but you don't really, at that level, you don't really have that much combined arms warfare. You have, because you have very few points. Actually, one mechanic that was, because I watched the previous discussion, which was in close combat, they have actually fatigue mechanics. So sometimes you have to rest your units between the battles, so you can't use them every time. So this is actually, I think, one of the few games that covers this. Other games that have combined arms warfare. You could say the Hearts of Iron games, they have the combined arms warfare bonus in the Division Designer, but it's on a very high level. Also in Hearts of Iron 4, you can't, I think you can't initially have a combined arms division because you need to experience points to gain up. So I think Steel Division is pretty much, of course, there's some hardcore games out there that have it, which I don't know, or I didn't play it. But basically, from the current games that are out there, I think Steel Division is the main one.
Okay. Well, and with this bombshell, more or less. Thank you for this interview. And always remember the Tank Museum, the Deutsches Panzermuseum in Munster. Yeah, nicely accommodated us here. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
And that's about it. Goodbye, and see you on the next video. Bye.